Welcome! And it's with absolute pleasure we have Kid Kenobi back in the treehouse. We're actually
Back in the treehouse,
invited over for a cup of tea, and which is obviously very appropriate because
Thank you.
Kid Kenobi is jumping on board to play at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, which, if you don't know, is a after COVID party, and the intention is to create something that we can all look forward to after this crazy period of isolation and all the restrictions. And the intention is that it will be flexible on date, which is why we're running a crowdfunding campaign, because if we can fund the party, it's then pretty much locked and loaded to make it happen. And it's so, just so grateful that you've jumped on board a party that you don't even know is going to happen.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's exciting, yes. But look, you got lots of passionate fans in the Xstatic community because Kid Kenobi played at Cirque Xstatic last year, our circus theme party, and I have to say you blew the roof off the big top.
Thank you.
I think a good word is I think we were all frothing, and naturally I might add.
Yeah.
But and I think that was your first sober dance party that you've played at.
It was definitely.
Definitely
in 25 years of DJing.
Right? Yeah. Wow.
Besides, I guess under 18s, strictly no, under 18s parties. But
yes.
Yeah, that was the first proper dance party, sober dance party.
And so I would love to know more about what your experience was. Like, what did you expect in terms of what you experienced and...
Okay, well, what I experienced is not what I expected. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I can't pinpoint exactly what I thought it was going to be like, but I thought it's going to be sober. It's probably going to be a little reserved. There probably wouldn't be the same vibe as a normal party. I thought it'd be a bit like conservative, I guess, is what I possibly thought it was going to be like, right? So that was my initial perception. But it was completely the opposite. Completely the opposite. And just actually really blew me away. I think initially when I got there, it was like just the setup, the decor, the amount of effort and energy that had been put into it. I was like, wow, this is what you've often been promised in terms of a party, but it doesn't get delivered, Like you'd read all this, even way back in the day, when I was first going to dance parties and raves in the early 90s, you'd read all this great stuff that was going to happen at the parties, and you'd rock up and you'd be like, oh, that's it. Or where is it,
Awesome.
This was like, wow, this is actually happening. This is more crazy and amazing than I thought it was going to be. So that was the initial impression. I was like, okay, this is like serious.
Yeah, awesome. And I think the other interesting thing about our parties is it's all ages. So you've got adults and kids in dress up, and it's all just. Yeah, I mean, you actually brought
my girls were there. My daughters were there.
You actually brought your daughters.
Yeah, so they were 8 and 4 at the time.
Yes,
and they loved it. They were up on stage. They went through a little tired bit of period. They were getting a little bit tired, and then suddenly the energy on the stage happened, and they all just suddenly were up and dancing and going crazy. They loved it. They absolutely loved it.
And I won't forget it. Like you dropped a lot of these classics, but they were remixes, and they just had these insane build-ups. And
I'm fond of a build-up.
Oh god, me too. I mean, that's the ultimate for me. But on the sound system at Fox at Max Watts there, with those tunes, and many of us in our sort of age group listening to tunes in an environment where we haven't really danced like that, to tunes like that for like a long time. And the energy was just insane.
It was really, and that's one thing I was going to say as well. Besides the actual decor, the actual energy of the crowd was probably one of the best energies I've played to in years.
Wow, okay.
And it's up there of all time. It really was. Like it was.
Okay.
Because I didn't expect that kind of energy. I thought, I'm used to parties where people aren't sober and they're really, and I was like, they're in my mind, they're the parties that have always got a good vibe or good energy, but. This was just like, wow, it really blew me away. I remember talking to lots of people afterwards just saying, oh my God, I can't believe the energy of that party. Like, people were really up for it.
Yes.
And I think because, what I really liked about it as well is there was a real, like, intention and conscious awareness in the party. So people were there with a shared intention to let's all have a really good vibe. We're going to create the vibe. Yes. And then it's sort of like, it's like this thing that builds and builds and builds because everyone's feeding off each other.
Yes,
It wasn't like random, sometimes you go to do gigs and people are like all just very random, and some people come here for some one reason. Some people are drunk. Some people are just trying to pick up. It's like all these just like random bits and pieces of people in a way, and you're trying to get them all together. Whereas something with the party that I played at, it was like people were there with a specific shared intent, and that kind of actually again reminded me of like the early rave parties that I used to go to, because there was an underground party. People used to go there because they wanted to be part of like a, you know, that society kind of thing, and they had that shared intention as well. So I think that was a huge part of it as well.
Yeah, well, it's something I've observed as well, because I mean, I used to party at, you know, drug and alcohol parties. You know, I used to do drugs and alcohol. You know, so I've been there, right? Like it's not like I haven't been in that scene. But what I've really observed is just how the energy on the dance floor is just a lot more connected to the music, because that's what people are vibing off, right? And it's sort of like everyone's united around that common intention and purpose, to dance and let go, and it is all about the music,
to build that vibe. Like that's the thing that I've always loved about dance music. It's obviously it's the music, that was the thing I was into first, but really it's about getting that vibe, getting that magical whatever it is that happens on a dance floor sometimes, where everyone's in that flow at the same time. And it's like it's like literally it's magical, right? And you know that I experienced that at that party, you know, and it's becoming a really rare thing these days, like, you know. So
wow, well, look, you know, that's why I love to organise parties. That flow state where everyone's connected, and it's like everyone's just expressing themselves, unleashing, and it's just like, this is what being alive is about. You know, it's about, you know, it's just everyone in that sense of joy and presence connected to music, and it's something that I really thrive off. And you know, so we talk about this natural high, and that's something I wanted to sort of talk about next, because we've been talking about, you know, what is this natural high that we talk about, and I think the interesting thing that I've learned is that it really is like a scientific thing, essentially.
Well, you did describe that to me earlier, and it's interesting because I think when people hear the term natural high, it's almost like people just saying, it's just another way of saying don't do drugs, right? And it's almost like just don't do it, okay? We're not going to do any of that. This is just do it natural. But I don't think people realize there is an actual high that you can attain via natural.
Yeah, right. And so for me, it was a discovery when I first really got it. And that was at the Bali Spirit Festival. It was this yoga spiritual sort of festival. They had like ecstatic dance every night, and I danced for hours. The music was great. The environment, the vibe was excellent. And anyway, I basically just really felt myself coming up. There's no other way of explaining it. And it's basically enabling this chemical release. But naturally, and there's a couple of chemicals that make you feel really great. And one of those is endorphins. Right. And when we go into exercise, we feel the benefits of the endorphins. And you know, that comes naturally through movement and obviously dance, you see, and that's that. But like, you know, with running, you have to run far enough to get the endorphin release, right?
And it's funny because when we were talking about this, I didn't realize at the beginning when I was running why it made me feel better. But I'd be, you know, running, and then I'd be like, oh my god, I'm thinking really these inspired things, and I'm feeling really positive about my career, and I'm coming up with all these great ideas, and I'm like. Finish the run, and I'm just like feel this like I felt like a high, but I never really put the two and two together. I just thought, I don't even know what I thought. I just thought, I just enjoyed running or something. But it is actually a chemical reaction, you know, that happens, like we were saying. And so it's interesting because it's almost like I do love drinking wine, and I love having that almost as like a reward thing, and you know, like on the weekend or whatever. But I do notice, like, sometimes, a lot of the time, I'll get like a come down from that. Because there'll be that serotonin release, and then I don't think I've got like, I don't know, have sensitive serotonin levels or something. I don't know. Yeah, totally. So the next day I'll feel that depletion. I'll really feel it. So I'll get really anxious, I'll get down, I'll be really negative, nothing will seem possible, it'll all seem too hard. And then I've got to go for a run. Okay, I've got to go for a run. I've got to make myself feel better. And it's almost like the serotonin levels then get raised back up again, or the endorphins or whatever it is. And it's almost like naturally I came to this realization that even when instead of having to think, oh yes, I need to have a wine or whatever to relax, I've realized there's an ability to access a high by doing things like exercise or achieve it naturally. So it's almost like at the back, I've got this back pocket little thing of like, great, I've got like a natural high I can access whenever I want to.
Yeah, I mean, like exercise being medicine. I mean, I've suffered from anxiety my whole life, and you know, it's just ingrained in my subconscious, I think, unfortunately. But you know, exercise has been my sort of medicine to deal with that as well, and yeah, I exercise most days as a result. And dancing for me has obviously been a great release, and
Yeah.
so you've got the movement, right? But then you have the music, and I'm guessing you've had some goosebump moments.
Yeah,
with music, right?
A lot of different ways as well. Like gig wise, I remember the first gig I ever played in my entire life. I was probably on one of the biggest highs I've ever had. I was like, it was crazy. I was like on this high, and I remember sitting outside in the street with my girlfriend at the time, and just like being just on that high.
Yeah.
And it's a the thing is, I think with natural highs is it's a very clear high. You feel very aware and present and clear. It's not like you feel like if you've taken a drug or alcohol, you feel a bit like you can feel the drug or whatever it is in you and affecting you. So it's like another thing. But I think natural highs feel purely you, which is a really good experience.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you feel more connected to yourself.
Yeah,
you know, and there's nothing quite like it, and you know, so. And then there's this third aspect of I mean, I just love music. I mean, I always have. It's something that's, I think, again, helped me manage my anxiety. Is just I listen to music the whole time. It would, you know, it's just sort of help me get in a good headspace. So I can really talk to that. And there's like a third chemical, which is oxytocin. So you've got, you know, the endorphins. You've got some dopamine, which is generally sort of released with music, and I think serotonin to its extent as well. But oxytocin comes from a sense of group flow. It can come from a really good long hug for hugging for 20 seconds, but it can also come from a group flow. So if you've done team sports and you've been in a group flow when you're playing that sport, you would have experienced that. And it's the same with the dance floor. So when everyone's connected to the music, everyone's letting go, and there's that group flow, you get that real feel-good, loving sensation. You know, that connectedness, right? And you know, I think what's so special is when you bring these three elements together of, you know, the dance, the music, the group flow, the sense of connection you have. It's like, you can dose up on this. You know, you get the serotonin, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the endorphins, and it, as for someone who's done drugs, there's no other way of feeling that I'm coming up. It's sort of like, it's not as like, whoa, I'm like, you know, whoa, this is it, you know, I'm taking my thing and it's great. It's like, it's just more of a gradual rise, but it just keeps rising, I find. The more you dance, the more you let go, and the more, how especially the music, and when you're set at Cirque Xstatic, it just flowed, and the tunes and the build-ups, I mean, I was just like,
but yeah, okay,
so
cool. Well, I guess that's where I come from as well. Like I was saying before, the early rave days, and it's all about the unified vibe and creating the peak and moving that energy. So but now just like naturally, I guess.
And I think the interesting thing is you're basically releasing the same chemicals that you would take sort of MDMA or ecstasy release, which is more focused on serotonin, right? But the issue is there's always a bit of a nasty drop, because it's like basically like it's a dump, it's a release and it's a dump.
That's the
in
worst
your system
thing in that whole world.
And then you fall off the cliff, don't you? And you're like, oh, and it was almost I don't know how did
it wasn't me. It was just a drug. I hate that feeling.
or as I connected to that person, but it wasn't really a genuine connection.
And then you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't feel connected to you at all. This is awkward.
That's, I think, a good word. Awkward is what came to mind as well. And you know, the what I've experienced with the natural high is that it's you get it up there and it sort of stays up there. Like you know, the thing with dancing on the natural high, you need to have a break every now and then. You need to get a drink and nourish yourself, because you actually get tired, right? You don't have something that's going to give you like superpowers to go power through the night. So you have a break, right? And I'll go and have a cacao or something. But then I find once I just get back on the dance floor and start dancing, I just come straight back up again.
Okay.
And then there's no nasty drop at the end of the night. I mean, you're feeling pretty tired from all the dancing, a bit like you've been for a nice long run. But it's quite a satisfying feeling. And I think that's what's beautiful about this, is that you're left feeling connected to yourself, the experience you had. You wake up the next day and you have the memories of what actually happened. And it was sort of genuine. If you like.
It was genuine.
And you know, as opposed to obviously, you know, when you wake up and you've had a big night and you know there's a bit of like memory loss and sense of shame.
Go
like,
through my messages. What did I say?
Yeah, what did I? And look, you know, we're not writing off drugs and alcohol, it's, and for me this is just an invitation for a night off, and for me, like it did the first time, when I experienced an actual high, it opened my mind to realize, wow, this is a thing, and this is great, this is possible. And that's what's really led me to, that's what inspired me to start Ecstatic Sunsets, and what I thrive off now is generally a natural high. I like partying sober.
But I think a good thing as well is that it's an alternative, so people know that there is an alternative. You can feel good and get a high, and it doesn't always have to be through drugs and alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And you can do it naturally. So there's all these, what you've described, there's all these different ways to activate all those different chemicals in your brain. So it is actually creating like a high, but it's done by natural means. And I think the benefit of that as well is like, I feel it these days. I used to feel it if I partied. Now I feel it if I drink. Like I said before, it's like what it gives, it takes away, right? So it'll raise your serotonin levels, but then it'll deplete your serotonin levels if you drink, for example. So you'll feel anxious or depressed or whatever it is usually the next day, particularly if you're sensitive to it. And I think now with the awareness of mental health issues and the growing awareness of it, it's really important, I think, for people to realize they can go out and have these experiences and not have to really damage their mental health by doing drugs and alcohol. Because I think the thing I've always concerned me about drug use is that people think it's like a one-size-fits-all experience. Like, this is what ecstasy does, and this is how you're going to feel, and everyone's going to have the same experience, which is not true. If you're sensitive or you have mental health issues, you might have a really potentially bad come down. And it could affect you long term. You don't know. So I think there needs to be that awareness around it as well.
And I guess at least the question, how do you find the balance, right?
Yeah.
There's a time and a place, right, for whatever you're into, and that's okay. And I think we're just suggesting that you can have a night off and still have a really good time, and there is actually a high, which is awesome. But I still enjoy a drink, right? The guy who runs the sober dance parties drinks everybody, But it's and that's because it's like it's all about moderation and finding the balance that's right for you. And we've been talking about like how do you find that balance with alcohol, for example.
It's interesting. I think I've been experimenting for the last year or something. I'm trying to find what is the perfect formula for me to enjoy it, but not feel really crap the next day or be suffering from a 3-day hangover.
Totally.
And obviously I'll go over the limits quite a lot here and there, just depending on what happens. But ultimately, I want to try and find that balance. And it's tricky. It's really tricky, and I think it also changes as you get older as well. I definitely am finding it less. I'm less capable as I mature to deal with the kind of hangovers I once dealt with when I was younger.
Well, I think the difference from when I was younger, I used to default just to getting wasted, getting on the alcohol, and that was actually did help me express myself because of the anxiety I had. It was a means for me to sort of express myself more and find my sort of Dutch courage and confidence, if you like, which I didn't really have at the time. But now I'm more intentional. Right, so it's a bit like, how do you find the balance? How do you intentionally party in a way that's optimal for you? And I think that's what our message is all about: is how do you find that balance, and what is that? And for me, I really love the taste of a pale ale or a glass of red wine. I love the ceremonial aspect of having a drink. And so I find one drink is great, two's okay, anymore definitely not. For example, because otherwise, I at my age of 42, I get hangovers after 3 drinks. For example, I feel fuzzy the next day, and it really frustrates me, and I just go, well, why did I do that, sort of thing. So for me, it's all about trying to find the balance, and for everyone, as you say, everyone responds differently. And so it's sort of like a process of experimentation. But I think for the message we're trying to put out there and create experiences and an option is for you to experience how great it can be without anything. Because until you experience it, you can't quite comprehend how awesome it can be and how high you can get. But once you have that experience, it gives you a greater sense of perspective. Like, you know what? I don't actually need anything, but I do enjoy that thing. How much should I have to find that balance with, a healthy balance, if you like? So it's. do you have any tips on how to find a healthy balance?
I'm still experimenting, I think, at the moment. But I think you just got to pay attention to your own body, your own emotional state, what's going on in your life. I think sleep's a key factor as well. Like getting enough sleep. I find that if I do have a few drinks and I get enough sleep, I definitely won't feel as bad as if I stay up late and don't get enough sleep. So sleep's a huge one.
It's actually a really good point you make there is about sleep, and I've reflected on that. You know, when I stay up late, and it's actually more my body clock that gets thrown out, and it has a negative impact. As much as what I may have consumed in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Which is why Ecstatic Sunsets is all about enjoying that, starting early, right? Enjoying that. You know, ideally we'll do parties in nature, so you can enjoy, you know, that beautiful time of day into sunset. The idea is they start early and finish early, so you can get a good night's sleep. So our party is all about, you know, healthy partying and enabling that. But I think it makes a big difference, and I think, you know, there's a difference where if you rely on alcohol and drugs, you know, certainly drugs will give you superpowers to go all the way through. You know, you're definitely going to throw your body clock out. But I find with ecstatic parties, you know, because they start early, and it's the focus is the dancing, you basically get tired, and then the party's over, and then you get to go to sleep.
It's a good tide though, isn't it? You have a good
Well,
sleep.
you
have a good sleep after
you
that.
sleep like a baby, and I have to admit there is some level of hangover around tiredness the next day. Trust me, when you've danced your arse off for hours, you can wake up the next day and go, "Oh my god, what my body just been through?" Like, again, the more you practice, the better. But you know, I've certainly had those experiences where I'm like, you know, it's not like I wake up going, "Oh, I'm $1 million." It's like, "Oh my god, geez, I really did let loose, didn't I, last night?" God, well, look, thank you for sharing your perspective on this, Kid Kenobi, because I know you've grown up in the party scene. You know, you've been up front and center and seen so many dance floors, and you know, thank you for your feedback on our event, and I'm so pleased that it did surprise you. That what we're doing is something that I think people have to experience.
I think so, yeah. You know? I think so. To know that it's definitely possible to have that kind of experience and it be sober and natural high based, you know?
Yes.
Like it really is.
Yeah. And I think that's my call out to anyone out there who hasn't been to one of our events or a sober dance party, and there's many great options actually out there in the marketplace, if you like, is to have a go. You know, don't judge it until you've experienced it. And this obviously Mad Hatter's after COVID party, through the months of isolation, which is now extending with the second wave, we clearly need an amazing party to reconnect and dance and let go and play. And this is all about letting go without the need for alcohol and drugs, because we actually don't need it. And I think one of the important elements I haven't mentioned is the dressing up.
Oh, yeah.
Dressing up helps. You put on a mask to lose the mask. It really helps you to connect, express. It's just a great icebreaker, because you go, "Oh, mate, love your outfit." You know, it's so easy to connect. It's so easy to let go. And that's why all our parties are themed, heavily inspired on the theme to create an experience where you can lose yourself and just connect and lose yourself in the music, which is what it's all about, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
Right, yes. So, yes, we are, look, you know, well, let's, fingers crossed we hit this 50K target.
Let's do it.
And clearly with a 50K budget, it's going to be an epic party, isn't it? But yes, we do need to hit the 50K to get the funds. If we don't, nobody's card gets charged. So there's nothing to lose by donating. Your card would only get charged when we hit the target. Otherwise, unfortunately, if we don't, we won't get the party.
Yeah, so let's get it happening.
Yeah,
I want to play in it.
So please get your friends and your family. It's all ages. You can bring your mum. You know, it's a safe environment. It really is. And the whole concept is this Mad Hatters co-created tea party, which is basically, if you've ever heard of Dinner en Blanc, I've been inspired by that concept because I've enjoyed many of their events. But basically, you bring your own Mad Hatter setting: your table, your chairs, the tablecloth, the teapot, the cups, the tea, the cake, BOO, but you create your own Mad Hatters table experience with your mates, and you link up with others, and it's like a massive tea party, hundreds of people. Could be, could be even more than that, depending by the time we get there. But it's the intention is a really creative and fun way to connect, have conversations, share some cake around, make some friends, and of course there's going to be an epic dance floor with this guy. He's going to be closing the night. So it starts at 1 o'clock when we set up our Mad Hatters table settings, and we'll go through to 10 p.m. where this guy's going to be closing. So, yes, we're excited by the potential, and together we can make this happen. So, thank you those who've donated, and thank you, Kid Kenobi, for giving up your time again.
No worries.
And yes, we look forward to seeing you on the dance floor in your costumes and with big smiles on your face. So,
Let's do it.
Woohoo!